A small introduction to PHP scripting language. So what is PHP? If you take a web application or a website, now that is actually processed or run on a web server. A web server is a special machine which has a higher processing capability and a storage capacity. When you take a website or a web application, it is run on a web server. Once you going to access that web application, you are going to access it through your web browser. It can be Firefox or Google Chrome. Using that web browser, you are accessing a certain website or a web application, right? So as you can understand, in order to write that web application or to build that web application, we need some kind of a server-side scripting language, some language that a server can understand. So in our case, today we are going to learn PHP. So PHP is a server-side scripting language. Whatever we write in PHP, it is interpreted by a web server. So PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. It is a recursive acronym. And you can freely download and install PHP to your machine and run. You are free to do that, and you can easily learn that because there is a huge community out there for you to help. So as I was saying, PHP is used to develop web application. And if you take Facebook and Yahoo, they all use this PHP scripting language to build their applications. And if you take these content management systems like Joomla and WordPress, both of them are built using PHP scripting language. So it is a useful language. Now, PHP, if you take, PHP is used to develop dynamic web application. Now, what is this dynamic? Now, dynamic means any content in that web page, it is generated through some server-side language. Now, in our case, it's PHP, or it can be Node.js. That kind of server-side language we use to generate the content through these languages. So what happens is it is dynamically rendered on a server. Now, if you take, we all are familiar with this login, right? Facebook login. You can give email, your email as username, and you can provide your password. And once you click login, you are doing this on your browser, right? Using Chrome or Firefox, you log into your Facebook login page and you provide some kind of information and then hit enter, hit login button, and then that request goes as an HTTP request to the web server, right? And at the web server, there is a processing that happens there. So it will compare what you have entered, and it will compare it with the data that they already have in their database. There can also be a MySQL database server. So what happens is it will compare the values and it will validate that and send you some kind of a HTTP response to your browser. So you can understand, right? There is a client and a server communication in that. So what happens is, according to the response, it will generate some kind of a web page to you in your browser. So that is called that dynamic. Okay, if you go through this diagram, it will clearly explain this. This is your browser. Okay, this is your machine and you have a browser in there. And then you send some kind of a request to the web server. Now inside that web server, actually there is a PHP file in there. So that PHP file get interpreted by a PHP interpreter inside the web server. And in our case, if it is login credentials, username and password is entered, then it will also get validated through data already stored in a database. That is, here it's MySQL database. It will get validated through that and then send you a request to your browser. That is a dynamic web page that is produced to your browser. So this is simply what happens when you try to log into some kind of a web application, and that is what we can identify as the dynamic property of the of a web page. I wanted to explain this to you because today we are going to, I'm starting from the very beginning because this is really important to understand. So what you exactly need to run a PHP script? As I was explaining, this is a client and a server communication, right? So definitely you are going to have a local server in your machine. You need to have that. Of course, you can buy a server, but we have a simple way of doing that. You just need to install a local server in your machine, because our machine, they are not servers, but we can make it a server by installing software that I have mentioned here. For an example, XAMPP or WAMP can be identified as server softwares that you can easily install to your machine. Then you can convert your machine into a server. The other two things, your default installation have this. That is, of course, you need a text editor or a source code editor. This is to write our code. So you already have Notepad in your machine. So you don't necessarily have to install a separate software, but you have Notepad. But today I'm using Notepad++, but anyway, I'm going to explain you how you can use Notepad also. But for clarity of the code that we are writing, I actually recommend to use some kind of source code editor because it has more clarity to your source code. You can understand once we start doing this. And you need, of course, you need a web browser. That is to generate the output. You can use Chrome or Firefox or any other browser that you are familiar with. So this is the things that you need. And if you have these things, you can simply run a PHP script and get the output. I think compared with Python, Python is kind of a straightforward thing. Once you install Python, you have this IDLE and you can create a new file there and run the code at the same place, and you can generate an output. But when it's come to PHP, a bit of a thing there, because you need to separately install a web server, and you need to separately install a source code editor also if you need. So that might be a little bit of a task for a beginner. Once you have created the necessary environment, you can actually start executing any code that you have in PHP. So this is it. Let's get started. So this is the very first thing, to install a server in your machine. Today I'm going to use XAMPP server because this is PHP. So you might be thinking, okay, we might also download PHP and just use that. But we will going to need MySQL also. Rather than separately installing each and every software or interpreter to your machine, you can simply install this XAMPP or XAMPP software, which comes bundled with all these things like Apache, MySQL, and PHP interpreter. All these comes bundled with this single software. So it's better you download and install this. So today I'm going to explain about XAMPP. Search like this Apache Friends, and then you can see this page. You can straight away go to the download page, and there you can download the latest version of XAMPP. Now we have the latest PHP version as PHP 8. So earlier there was PHP 5 also, which supports object-oriented programming, and then it will develop into PHP 7, and then now it's PHP 8. There is PHP 8 also. So you just need to download this XAMPP for Windows. Under that you have PHP 8 version of XAMPP, and then you have to just download it. And once you download that, you will going to get a file like this, an executable file. Just double click or right click and hit run as administrator. Then it will start installing to your machine. I will, since I have installed this to my machine already, I will just play this video for you. It will start like this, and then there will be some messages. You can just click OK and then click next like this. And if you want to give a separate folder, you can change. Otherwise, just click on next. It will start installing that to your C drive. Okay, like this. Then click on next. And then it will start installing the application. And finally, you need to finish that. So once you finish installing, you get a control panel like this, where you need to start these services, Apache and MySQL service. Just click on start, and then you will start those services. And then once you go to the browser and click localhost, it will show this dashboard. I will show that part to you. Okay, now here of course I have, if I go to this C drive, here I have several versions of XAMPP. So I'm going to this path to in order to start the services, but you of course can search like this on the search bar. You can search XAMPP, and then you can directly get this XAMPP control from here. But since I have several versions, I'm going to this location and then XAMPP 3. This is my latest version. I will double click on that and then scroll down further. You get this control panel here also, XAMPP control. Okay, if I double click on this, now this is a XAMPP control panel, and you just need to start these two services, Apache and MySQL services. Now mine is already running. So now you can just close this. Okay, and once you enter the localhost / this is what you need to provide: localhost, all are in lowercase without any spaces, and just type localhost / on your browser and hit enter. So once you hit enter, if your services are running correctly, it will show this page to you. This is your dashboard. When we mention it as localhost, our browser knows that, okay, there is a locally installed server in this machine. Then I'm going to send this HTTP request to that locally installed web server. That is our Apache web server, which comes bundled with this XAMPP software. So that request comes to our Apache web server, and then Apache web server gives the response back to our browser with this page. This is what happens. Okay. And then, so you have successfully installed a local server and start the services properly. And now what you need to do is, you need to go to this path. Okay. See XAMPP. In XAMPP folder, there is a folder called this htdocs. Now, if you have installed XAMPP server, you need to go to C XAMPP. Then there is a folder called www. Okay, these folders, they are actually accessible to outside world. If you take any live server also, there is a folder that is publicly accessible by outside people. That is the folder that we are going to have our PHP code, all those PHP files that we are going to have in that folder. Now, according to XAMPP, it's htdocs folder. Okay, so you need to double click that folder. Let's create this folder. Okay, I'm going to create, you can provide any name. I'm going to create a folder called PHP code. Okay, PHP code. Now, inside this folder, you are going to have all your PHP scripts. It is not recommended to have your PHP file outside this folder. You need to definitely create a separate folder inside htdocs because otherwise it might not work. Okay. The best way is to go to this htdocs folder and then create another folder. In this case, I have given the name as PHP code. So let's start writing our very first PHP script. So first of all, I will show you how you can do this with the notepad. Okay. Okay, I'm going to open the notepad and just open this notepad file, and then in order to write PHP scripts, unlike Python, in PHP, we have a starting and an ending tag. You need to write, first you need to write this less than mark, then question mark, and then PHP. Okay. This is the starting tag. Then you can start writing your PHP code. Now in PHP, if you can remember in Python, if you want to print something on the console, you use that function called print function, right? Just like that, in PHP, we have this function called echo. Echo function is used to print something on our browser. Okay, echo, echo, and then give a space, and I'm going to give some kind of a string, then I have to write it inside the double quotation or a single quotation. For now, I'm using this single quotation, and I can write anything. Let's say hello world. Okay. Then the main thing that you need to keep in mind is you always have to end a statement with a semicolon. That is really important, because in Python you never wanted to do that, but in PHP it's not that, it's different. This is what everyone forgets in PHP, and they always get errors, so many errors due to this small thing. You always have to end the statement with a semicolon. Okay, that's it. This is what you need to write. Then you can here you can have the end PHP tag, but it's not necessary because we only have PHP code here. But if you are going to embed this inside HTML code, then you will definitely going to close the have to close that with a closing PHP tag. For now, I will show this. This is the ending tag, question mark, and the greater than mark. This is the complete PHP script. The small thing, but you have to keep in mind certain things, right? Okay, now when I'm going to save this file, then click save. And what you need to do is you first select the location that you are going to save this. It is this part C. In my case, it's XAMPP3. Okay, C XAMPP, then htdocs, then our folder, the folder that we have created. It's PHP code. Okay, then we will name this as hello. Okay, hello.php. Provide this extension, and then under save as type, give this as all files. Save as type should be all files. Then only this will take this file as a PHP file. Otherwise, it will take this as a normal text file. Okay, this is it. Now click save, and then go to your browser. Okay, type localhost. Okay, localhost / then the folder name which we have created in the htdocs, that is PHP code. PHP code / our PHP file name, that is hello.php. You have to give the extension as well, hello.php. Now then we click enter. See, you can now see the output on your browser. This is the simple thing. Okay, you have to provide this part correctly, the URL, and it will go to the correct file, and it will execute the whatever the thing in this file. Okay, if you can see this, it's not much clear when you're using this notepad, but if you take notepad plus, this kind of a text editor is very useful. This notepad plus, you can simply you can search for that and just download and install that. And once it is correctly installed, you can open any script with that. I will open this script in notepad plus. Go to your file and just right click on the file, and then open with edit with notepad plus. And now you can see it's more clear. All the keywords are highlighted in a separate color, and the starting and the ending PHP tag. I have explained this very basic thing. You must have already known this, but once you have understood this part, you can easily run any PHP script easily. That's why I have take some time to explain this to you. Okay, then I will show you how you can embed a PHP code inside an HTML code. We will see that. Okay. Here I'm going to take a new file. From this point forward, I'm using Notepad++ for this because it's more clear rather than using Notepad. Okay. Take a new file, File, New, and here I'm going to now another thing that you need to keep in mind is that you already know HTML, right? You already know CSS, that part you are familiar with. We know that in order to write an HTML file, you just need to save that file as an HTML file. But when it comes to PHP, you can always embed your PHP code inside this HTML tags as well. But you need to save that file as a PHP file. You have this language tab, and once you click that, you have several languages here. Here I'm going to take this as PHP. Okay, and let's start. I will write some HTML code here. Okay, let's start some HTML tag, HTML, and I'm going to end the tag HTML, and then let's have a head, and then close the head tag, head, and then we have a title tag, title, and I will give this as title as let's say example page, example page. Okay, and then comes the body tag, body, right? This is our body tag, and here I can simply provide a heading. Let's say H1, heading 1 tag, H1, and here I can say example page. Okay, now you are already familiar with this. Okay, if I save this, okay, I'm going to save this as example.php. Okay, example. Now here I don't need to separately provide the extension because the save as tab is already PHP. That's because I'm using Notepad++, and there you have this file tag. So you don't need to provide the extension part. It will automatically take this as a PHP file. So I'm going to save this. We still haven't write any PHP code here. I will just run this and show it to you what we are going to get. Let's say example.php. Okay, this is a simple HTML page, but we name it as a PHP file. Okay, because we are going to write some PHP code in it. That's why we name it as a PHP file. So this is just a HTML file still. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, within this body tag, I'm going to write something that is in PHP. Okay. What you can do is, you definitely need to have start and ending PHP tags here, because now you are going to write, embed your PHP code inside HTML code. So I'm going to write the starting tag of PHP, and also you need to end that. Okay, starting and ending tag. Within this, I will echo something that we're going to print on the browser. Echo, I will say within single quotation or double quotation, doesn't matter. I will use single quotation. Okay, I'm going to say, let's say, this output is from PHP. This output is from PHP. Okay, so that we know this part has come from the PHP code that we have written. And you need to end this with a semicolon. So this is it. This is how you simply embed a PHP code inside an HTML file. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Just save it and then go to your browser and then just refresh that. See, now this part generated with HTML h1 tag, this part generated through a PHP code, okay, from a echo function. If I show this source, you can see there is this h1 tag and this part, this output is from PHP, that is a string generated through a web server and then returned to a web browser. That's why you can't see that PHP tag here, because this is a client side. Okay, any PHP code, it is not visible to the client side. That's why we call PHP as a secure as well. The next thing is the comments that you have in PHP, right? I will take the previous file, hello PHP. Now, comments is something that we really need, because when you are writing some kind of a code, and that code is not only you are going to refer that code, but there can be a team, so that certain team members also referring to your code, and they should know what this code supposed to do. And what you can do is you can comment that description so that others can easily understand. Mainly there are three types of comments in PHP. If you want to have a single line comment, you can use these two forward slashes, and then you can write your comment. Okay, this is a single line comment. Also, you can use hash, and then your comment. Okay, both of them are single line comments. So if I save this and run, you know it's not going to execute, right? It's just a comment, just the source. On the source code, you can see these comments, right? And if you want to have multi-line comment, then you can have this forward slash, then asterisk mark, and then close it with another asterisk mark, and then forward slash. Within this, you can write any number of lines. This is a multi-line comment. Okay, you can have a multi-line comment like this: forward slash star, and then close it with star and another forward slash. So these are the three types of comments in PHP. Now it's time to learn about these variables. Now that you have already learned Python, in PHP also we can have variables. So there are several things that you need to understand in PHP. So if you take a variable is some kind of a container which can store information. It's just a container. We can have values assigned to that container. So in PHP, variable should start with the dollar sign. Okay, it should start with the dollar sign and followed by the name of that variable. In Python, if you can remember, in Python it was not like that. You just write the variable name. But in PHP, it's not the same. You have to have this dollar sign in front of your variable name. And a variable name, the other thing is that a variable name can start with a letter or an underscore, but not with a number. Okay, we'll see that. Let me start this PHP script in PHP file. Okay, I will set the language as PHP. Now let me define a variable. If you want to define some kind of variable in PHP, we have to start with the dollar sign, dollar and my number. Okay, dollar my number equal. I'm going to give some kind of an integer here, so I can let's say 5, and you have to end with the semicolon, right? And then if I going to print this on our browser, I can use echo statement here also. Echo echo, then your variable name, dollar my number, right? Let's save this. I'm going to name it as variable .php. Okay, if I go to my browser and try to run it, variable, and click on enter, it will show the variable that I have defined. So what happens here is the number 5 get assigned to this variable we have defined. You don't need to define it whether it's an integer or anything. In PHP, it's not necessary. Just give the variable value and then that value gets assigned to this side, the left side. That is your variable name. In this case, it's dollar my number. Then I just print it with the echo statement. That's what happened, right? So the rule that we have to keep in mind is a variable name can start with the letter. Okay, this is a letter. My number, M is a letter. Okay, that is fine. Or an underscore. You can also provide your variable in front of a variable. You can provide an underscore, dollar underscore my number. This is also possible. We'll see that. Okay, if I mention it as dollar underscore my number, then I'm going to save this, and if I'm going to refresh it here, no error. So you can have the underscore in front of your variable name. That is also possible. But if you are going to have a number in front of, if you're going to have a number when you're starting your variable name, let's say $2 my number. Okay, I'm going to change it here as well, $2 my number. And if I save and try to run this, I'm going to refresh this, then there will going to be an error, parse error, syntax error. It will give an syntax error for this. Okay. Now having a text editor is also important because you can have these line numbers because always an error mention you with a line number. In this line you have this error. So according to this, my line 3 has this error. Line 3 is this, and there is an unexpected 2. Okay. So you can't start a variable name with a number. That's why what I wanted to explain to you that you should keep in mind. Always start with an underscore or a letter when you are defining a variable in PHP, right? Another thing is a variable can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscore, of course, you can understand that. And the other thing is a variable names are case sensitive. Okay, now for that, let's say, okay, I name this as my dollar my number. M is the simple letter. Now, if I going to print in the next line, if I'm going to print this like this, let's say I change this as capital N, so capital M. Okay, the word is same, but the starting letter I change it to capital letter. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to save that, and if I'm going to run this, now it gives an error saying undefined variable my number. See, now it, even though it's the same variable name, but the first I have defined the variable at the top as with simple letter, but I have changed it to an uppercase when I'm going to print that. That's why, so the script starts to find this my number, but it cannot find any variable name with this. There is only a variable name starting with a lowercase letter. So that's why in PHP, what you need to keep in mind is that in PHP, variable names are case sensitive. Okay, that should also, it will treat these two as two different variables. That is the simple thing that you need to understand. Okay, I will explain you another small thing. Now, if I try to, let's say I want to have some string here also, when I'm going to echo this, I would like to say, let's say within double quotation, I'm going to say, my number is, and then let's first take a single quotation. Okay, within single quotation. Okay, within single quotation, I'm going to say, okay, this is my number, then our variable name. So what we are expecting is this will print on the browser as my number is 5. Let's see what it will be going to print here. I'm going to refresh this. Now what happened? My number is $my number. It will print what is inside that single quotation. It prints the the values as it is. So with single quotations, you are not going to be able to have any variable convert to its value. For that, you need to have this in double quotations. So if I change this to double quotations, and once I'm going to run this, yes, I forgot to change this. This has to be lowercase. Okay, this has to be the same variable name. Okay, if I'm going to run this, now it prints my number is 5. Okay, another thing that you need to keep in mind when using PHP, double quotations are capable of doing some additional processing. It if it finds something that starts with a dollar sign, then it will try to check whether it's a variable. Then if it is a variable that is defined on the top of the script, it will assign that value, and then it will going to print that. So that's the difference between single quotation and double quotation. So let's try to write a program to add two numbers and output the results. How we are going to do that? I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to change the language to PHP. Okay, then I'm going to start the PHP tag. Then we need two numbers, right? So for that, we will going to have two variables to hold the values. So we can simply say dollar, I'm going to say n1. This is my number one. Dollar n1 equal 40, and then dollar n2 equal, let's say 30, and then simply add these two numbers. And I'm going to have the results in another variable. Let's say dollar results equal dollar n1 plus dollar n2, and with a semicolon. This is the simple thing. So you can use the plus operator here, and then if you want to print the results, you can use echo statement. echo dollar results. Okay, I'm going to save this. Let's save it as sum.php. Okay, I'm going to save this and run the code. Sum.php and enter. It shows the addition of two numbers, right? This is the results that you get. If I want to change this a bit, let's say the results, no, let's say the addition of two numbers, dollar n1 and dollar n2 is, and then dollar results. You have to write this within double quotation because you have variable names within it. So let's save this and run this again. The addition of two numbers 40 and 30 is 70, right? This is the simple code for that, right? Here you don't necessarily need to end the PHP tag because you only have PHP code here. This is how you can write that script. So if you want to, let's say, find the average of these two numbers, then simply you need to divide this number by 2. There are only two numbers, right? So have a bracket here. You already know in Python, you have learned this many times. So here also it's the same. Always keep in mind the operator precedences, those concepts. Here also it applies. And so if you want to take the average, just add these two numbers, and the total results you need to divide it by 2 because there are two numbers. And let's say now it's not addition, it's the average of two numbers. Okay, you can use the division operator here, plus operator to sum the two numbers. And if I'm going to save this and if I'm going to run this, the average of two numbers 40 and 30 is 35. Okay, simply you can write your code like this. Now if you take this variable, the one we learned, it is only capable of storing a single value in that variable, right? We can only store a single value. If it's 40, then 40, n1 is 40. We can't give this as 40, 30, or like we can't provide multiple values to this single variable. But you can do that with arrays. Okay, let's learn how PHP arrays work. So let's start learning how to define an array in PHP. I'm going to have a new file here. Okay, how to define an array in PHP? If you are going to define array with values, this is how you are going to do it. Let's say I'm going to, I will need a list of students to store in one single variable. For that, I'm going to use this array, PHP arrays. Let's say students, $students. So I'm going to have list of students here. $students equal. Then you have to mention it like this, array. This is how you are going to define arrays in PHP. Array, and then within brackets, you can have a comma separated values inside this. Any number of comma separated values. Okay. So I'm going to have my list of students. Let's say within single quotation, or you can use double quotation even, doesn't matter. I'm going to have my students. Let's say Isuru, then comma, then again the next value, comma, again within quotation, Nimal. So likewise, you can keep on adding values to this list. These are comma separated values. Okay, then comma, I will have some more students. Let's say Kumar, comma, Amila. Okay, likewise you can add number of values here, separated by a comma. Then end with a semicolon. This is how you are going to define an array in PHP. Let me explain that to you another example. Now this is the array that we defined. Okay, this is the list of students. So these are called array values. These are called array values. And once you define your array like this, it will automatically have these indexes. We call this index starting from 0. So each value will get an index. We haven't specifically mentioned indexes, so it will arrange this with these indexes starting from 0. Starting from 0. Okay. So these are called array index. So these are array values and these are array indexes. An index starting from 0. So this is how I have explained you earlier. This is how you define this array. Okay, it is a comma separated value within brackets. So once you define an array like this, what happens is in your memory location, it will have these values and then it will have indexes to each of these values. If it is Nimal, the index is 2. If it is Amila, the index is 4. Likewise, you will going to have indexes to each and every value inside your array. This is called the $students variable. This is an array variable. So yeah, the next thing is, first of all, let me show you. Now, once we define an array like this, you can print this easily, but not with echo statement. Now we have learned echo statement. Echo statement we use to print something on the browser. But in order to print an array on the browser, we can't simply use echo statement because echo statement is capable of printing a single value, not a list of values. Okay. Now, let me show you that echo. If I use echo, then this is how we do it previously, right? Echo $students. Okay. If I'm going to run this, first of all, let me say this, let's say array.php. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to run that. Okay. See, now there is an error saying array to string conversion. So echo statement is only capable of printing a single value, not an array. So if you want to print a whole array in your browser, you can use this function called print_r. Print_r. This print_r function is capable of printing an array. So if I'm going to save this and I will go to the browser and execute it again. See, now it will going to print the complete array to the browser. Okay, this is the code. Print_r. Okay, it will show you the complete array. Now, also you can see the indexes as well here, right? Even though we have specifically not mentioned the indexes when at the time we are defining the array, when we are printing it, it will show with the indexes as well. And it starts from 0. You also, if you click this Control plus U, then you can see it more clearly, the source of that view. So this is our array. Right. Now, if we want to access a single element from this array, what can we do? Now, for that, you can simply do this. Now that we are going to print a single element, you can simply use echo and then take this variable name $students, and then within square brackets, just provide the index that you want. Now, if I want to print, let's say, Kamal, let's say Kumar. If I want to print Kumar, so the index is 3, right? So the index is 3. I have to mention the index number inside that square brackets. Okay, in this semicolon. Then if I click on save, and if I going to run this, now it will print Kumar. So that's how you are going to access a single element from your array. Okay, your array variable name $students, and then within square brackets you need to provide the index of the value that you want to access. If I want to say I want to access Isuru, then the index is 0. If I save this and run, then it will access that element. So you can understand that with, let me explain to you, accessing a value inside an array. So this is your array. What happens is, if you want to access this value, which has the index number 2, then you can simply mention it as this $students, then index number 2. If you want to access Isuru, then $students 0. The index number is 0. That is how it's going to work. Let's have another example. I will show you another example. Let's say you want to define an array to store some color, and let's say if you want to print all those colors, what you can do. Let me have another file here. Okay. So I'm going to have list of colors. Let's say $colors equal array, and within quotation, within brackets, let's say, okay, I'm going to have red, then blue, green. Let's say I have 3 colors in my list. Okay, this is a array. If I'm going to name each and every color here, as I have explained earlier, you can access each element with the index. Okay, so it's going to be like this. I'm going to say echo $colors, then within square brackets you can say 0, then it will print what? It will print red, right? So same like that, can say 0, 1, 2. So these are the colors that are in our array. So I'm going to save this as colors.php, and if I'm going to run this, colors, it says red, blue, green, but the text, if you want to display it one after the other, you need to have a break tag. So let's say comma PR. Okay, if I'm going to run this, then it will list down all the values in our array. So this is it. The BR tag is the HTML tag. So another thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you are going to embed HTML code inside PHP, that is the other way around. We learned previously that how to embed PHP inside HTML code. Now what we have done is we have embed HTML code inside PHP. You need to enclose it with a double quotation. Any PHP, any HTML tag, you need to enclose with a double quotation. That is the next thing that you need to keep in mind. So if we have a number of values in our array, let's say maybe it can be 20 or 30 values. This is not the way we are going to access, or if we are asked to print all those all those values inside that array, then what we have to do is we need to use loops. There are basically we are going to learn for loop, while loop, and do while loop. That will come in the next session, but before that we will first learn about this control structure, if-else statement. How we can write this if-else code block in PHP. So like in any programming language, in PHP also you can run certain statement based on a condition. You can provide some kind of a condition, and based on that condition you can execute a certain code block. Okay, so first we learn how this if statement works. Okay, if you want to execute set of statement when a condition is true. So the syntax is if you provide the condition, if condition, and then you definitely need to have curly brackets. If it is a single statement, then you of course don't need this curly bracket, but if there are number of statements inside your if statement, then you definitely need to have these curly brackets. Just open a curly bracket, then the statement that you need to execute, and then close that curly bracket. This is the flow chart you are going to get. Start, then you check the condition. If the condition is true, then it will straight away go to the body of the if state, that is the inside of the statement. And if the condition is false, then it will skip that body part of the if statement and straight away execute whatever they are outside of that if statement. That's how it will going to work. So let's try to write an example here. Okay, let's start with PHP tag. I'm changing the language here to PHP. Okay. Let's say I'm going to take a variable as marks. So, and I'm going to check whether if a certain student take marks greater than 50, I'm going to print as pass to that student. So first of all, let's take the variable marks equal. So I'm going to say let's say 70. This should print the results as pass, right? So I'm going to write the condition if, okay, within brackets dollar marks greater than 50. If dollar marks greater than 50, let's open a curly bracket. Inside this, I'm going to say echo pass. I'm going to print pass. Okay, then close your state. This is the simple code that you are going to need. I'm just going to print pass if that student have a mark higher than 50. So let's save this marks.php, right. And then I'm going to the browser and try to run that marks.php. Now we print pass. Okay, so this is the code that you're going to need. You define some variable, then we check whether that variable is greater than the certain value that we are providing. So if this is going to, let's say 40, then what will happen? It will not going to print anything, right? Because we only mention here the only an if statement, right? There is no else part. So it will going to skip the if statement because it's not going to be, the condition is not true, it's false. So it will skip the if statement. So now let's say I'm changing this back to, let's say 80. Then again, okay, it will print pass. And if I, let's say, if I write something again here, first of all, I'm going to have a break tag. And then I'm going to, this is the marks or something like that. So what happens? It will, of course, here now the condition is true. It will come inside this if statement and print pass, and then it will execute whatever else in outside of this if statement as well. So it will also print this part also. This is marks. This statement will also be executed in this script. Let's see. Okay, pass, then this is the marks. And here if I change this to let's say 30, and if I run this, what happens? It will skip that if part, and then whatever the statements outside of if statement will also get executed. Okay, this is the simple condition statement control block that we can write. Yes, so let's try to write a program to calculate average marks of two subjects. And if the average marks is greater than 45, we have to print pass. Let's try to do that. So we are going to calculate average marks of 2 subjects. So we need 2 variables for 2 subjects. Let's say maths 30 and then dollar English 80. Okay, then what we have to do, we have to calculate the average. Let's say dollar AVG equal dollar maths plus dollar English within brackets. You have to put it inside the brackets and then divide it by 2. This is the average. And then we check whether this average AVG is greater than, now here the validation is different, it's 45. It should be greater than 45. Then we print as pass. We don't need this part. Okay. Let's see. Let's try to execute this. Okay. It says pass. Average is dollar AVG. We can even have a break tag also. Right. Just save it. Okay, now it will mention what is the average and then whether pass. Only if it is greater than 45, if the condition is true, it will print pass. Otherwise, it will not going to print anything. Only it will say average is this. Okay. The average is 55, so pass because it's greater than 45. This is a small conditional statement. If statement. You must be asking the echo statement. You can have it before or after that, doesn't matter, right? Now if I have it here, doesn't matter, it will print. Yes, of BR part have to come on top of this. Okay, and if I refresh this, first it will validate that. I'm just mentioning here the average is this. That is the only thing that I'm mentioning. That's why it is outside of if statement. So even if it's not greater than, let's say this is let's say this is 10 and this is 20, and then what happens, it will not going to print pass. Okay, it will not going to print pass, but it will show the average is 15. So that's why I have mentioned that outside of if statement. Outside of if statement, because that is just a statement that I'm saying. So I don't have to check anything to that, right? I'm not going to check that, just to mention, okay, this student have got this average. And if that value is greater than 45, I'm going to print pass as well. That is the output. That's why I have mentioned this, the average is this part outside of if statement. If else statement, this is the syntax you need to have in PHP. This is the syntax. If, then within brackets, your condition, then start this, open this curly bracket, and then any statement that is relevant to the if statement, then else part, again curly brackets, within curly brackets, the statement that is that belongs to else part. So the flow chart is this: when you start and you check the condition, If the condition is true, it goes straight away to the body of if statement. Okay, if statement. If the condition is false, then it will go to the body of else statement. So now we have condition both sides of the of this, so that whenever the condition gets false, we also have another statements that we can execute. I'm going to check a certain color is red or not. If it's going to be red, I'm going to print the color is red. Otherwise, I'm going to print the color is not red. Okay, so I'm going to take a variable named color, $color equal, within quotation I'm going to mention it as red. Okay, this is a string variable. Now comes the condition. Let's say if, within brackets, $color, this is the operator, double equal or single equal is used to assign something to a certain variable or something. So double equal checks whether the left side is equal to the right side. Okay. This is the operator, double equal. Right? We are checking whether the color is red or not. So we have to mention here red. $color equal red. Right? Within curly brackets, I'm going to say if the condition is true, I'm going to say the color is red. The color is red. Otherwise, okay, close that curly bracket and then say type else, and then again open the curly bracket and say, let's say equal. What we can say is that the color is not red. It can be any other color. What we can say is the color is not red. Okay, just close the. Yes, this is how you can write this if else control block in PHP. What it does is it will assign, first is it assigns this value to this variable called $color, and then we are checking $color is equal to red. If it is equal, then we are going to print the color is red, or otherwise it goes to the else part and execute that code block. Okay, that's what going to happen here. Let me save this. Let's say color check. Okay, I'm going to save this and I will color check. Okay, the color is red. Okay, this is the simple script. I have assigned red to this variable, so the condition is true in if statement. So it will execute that code block, this code block. Okay, you can have any number of statements here. I can again say, let's say echo. I will have a break statement inside here. PR echo. This is my color, something. Okay, you can have number of statement inside here, or even In else part, you can have number of multiple statements, right? If I'm going to save this and if I run this, the color is red. This is my color. Everything that is inside if statement will going to be executed. Now if I change this to, let's say, green, and if I save this and run, then the color is not red. It straight away goes to the else part, because the condition in if statement is false, and then it will straight away goes to the else part and execute whatever the things inside the else part.